Welcome back again, everyone. It's Dina Kalmata here with CWW7 News. And for today's broadcast, to wrap up the week, I wanted to bring you some headlines in regards to the United States, Russia, Ukraine, as well as China, Israel, and Syria. So we definitely have a lot to catch up on. And I'd like to first take you to this report. Associated Press, and they are reporting that President Putin has issued an ominous warning on rising nuclear war threat. The world is facing a rising threat of a nuclear war because of the U.S. pullout from arms control treaties and its destabilizing military plans, stated the Russian president. Speaking at his annual news conference, Putin warned that it could lead to the destruction of civilization as a whole and maybe even our planet. The Russian leader added that even though a nuclear conflict now seems impossible to most, the danger is close and real. We are witnessing the breakup of the arms control system. He pointed at Washington's intention to walk away from the INF Treaty and its reluctance to negotiate the extension of the 2010 New START agreement. U.S. officials say the withdrawal from the INF was prompted by Russian violations of the treaty. However, Moscow denies any breaches. President Putin stated, "We will have to ensure our security. And they shouldn't speak later about us gaining unilateral advantages. We aren't seeking advantages. We are trying to preserve the balance and ensure our security." The Russian leader also scoffed at Western allegations that he is reaching for global domination, rejecting them as part of a smear campaign driven by domestic policy. He said, "As for ruling the world, we know where the headquarters trying to do that are located, and the place isn't Moscow." He also dismissed claims that Russia is interfering abroad, from a nerve agent poisoning in Britain to an alleged effort to infiltrate the U.S. National Rifle Association, charging that those accusations are part of a U.S.-led efforts to paint Russia as a boogaboo to strengthen the Western allies' unity. He said they need an external threat to cement NATO unity, accusing the U.S. and its allies of exploiting phobias of the past to achieve domestic political goals. It goes on even further to report that President Putin noted that he's still keeping the door open for a meeting with Trump, but added that the prospect for that looks increasingly dim in view of the Democrats winning control of the House. Meanwhile, the Russian leader showed no sign of backing down from Russia's stance on Ukraine, accusing his Ukrainian counterpart of provoking a naval standoff with Russia to boost his electoral prospects. Then, turning to nuclear weapons, Putin warned that if the U.S. puts intermediate-range missiles in Europe after its plan to exit from the INF Treaty, banning them, Russia will be forced to take countermeasures. He noted that the United States also appears to show little interest in extending the New START nuclear arms reduction treaty, which expires in 2021. He said, "You aren't interested? You don't need it? Okay, we will survive. We will ensure our security. We know how to do it. But it will be very bad for the whole of mankind, because it would take us to a very dangerous area." The Russian president also pointed at Western defense analysts discussing the possibility of using low-yield nuclear weapons, warning that its authors naively believe in a limited conflict involving smaller weapons. The Russian leader stated that lowering the threshold could lead to a global nuclear catastrophe. He also emphasized that the U.S. pondering the use of ballistic missiles with conventional warheads represents another deadly threat. He argued that the launch of such a missile could be mistaken for the launch of a nuclear-tipped one and trigger a nuclear retaliation. Imagine a submarine firing a ballistic missile. How on earth should we figure out whether it's nuclear or not? It's extremely dangerous. As tensions continue to soar between the United States and Russia, it is being reported that Moscow has deployed more fighter jets to Crimea as it warns of an imminent provocation. Russia's Ministry of Defense revealed on Monday that Moscow planned to send over 10 Sukhoi Su-27s and Su-30 fighter jets to the Crimean Peninsula. The move came as the Russian foreign minister warned that Ukraine was planning an unspecified provocation near Crimea before the new year. It goes on further to report, although the international community does not recognize Russia's claims over Crimea, Many say Moscow is determined to solidify its control over the peninsula. Russia has already built a new large bridge to connect mainland Russia with Crimea. The Ukrainian president recently claimed that Russia had at least 80,000 troops, 1,400 artillery and missile systems, and 900 tanks, 2,300 armored vehicles, 500 planes, and 300 helicopters stationed in the temporary occupied parts of Ukraine. Russia has also propped up pro-Russian separatists who have been fighting Ukrainian forces in eastern Ukraine since 2014, and the Ukrainian president recently warned that Russia was planning a ground invasion. RT News is reporting that Russian lawmakers have warned the United States that more U.S. weapons to Ukraine will only make the conflict worse. Kurt Volker, U.S. Special Envoy, stated that moving through Congress is a military financing package of around $250 million and the ability to sell additional equipment. Within the next months, there will be some announcements, and it will be ongoing. He also claimed that Ukraine is under attack by Russia and advocated for a Western military presence near or even inside that country to raise the visibility of Russia's actions. The notion of imposing additional sanctions on Russia over the November 25th maritime incident in the Kerch Strait seems to be gaining some traction among Washington's allies in Europe, stated Volker, hinting it might happen in the next month or two. Russian lawmakers slammed Volker's statements as destructive, saying the U.S. envoy was contributing to escalating tensions in Ukraine rather than resolving them peacefully. The deputy chair of the Duma's Defense and Security Committee stated that this confirms once again that the U.S. regards Ukraine as a puppet and proxy for implementing its aggressive designs against Russia. By supplying Ukraine with any types of weapons, the U.S. encourages the escalation of tensions with Russia in the first place, which of course does not benefit stability in the region. And if things were to escalate, the United States might have a problem. Fox News is reporting that the United States is unable to defend against Russian and Chinese hypersonic weapons. The GAO report stated that the U.S. lacks the defenses needed to protect against a new breed of highly sophisticated hypersonic weapons from China and Russia. China and Russia are pursuing hypersonic weapons because of their speed, altitude, and maneuverability. May defeat most missile defense systems, and they may be used to improve long-range conventional and nuclear strike capabilities. There are no existing countermeasures, stated the report. And earlier this year, the Russian military said it ran a successful test of nuclear-capable hypersonic missiles capable of sneaking through enemy defenses. A video posted by the Defense Ministry on Sunday showed a MiG-31 fighter jet launching a Dagger missile during a training flight. The ministry said the missile, which carried a conventional warhead, hit a practice target at a firing range in southern Russia. The Russian president said that the Kinzhal flies 10 times faster than the speed of sound, has a range of more than 1,250 miles, and can carry a nuclear or conventional warhead. The military said it's capable of hitting both land targets and Navy ships. Meanwhile, the U.S. military has been busily ramping up its hypersonic weapons capabilities. In April, the Pentagon announced a deal with Lockheed Martin to develop a hypersonic conventional strike weapon for the U.S. Air Force. The deal for the air-launched hypersonic weapon is worth up to $928 million. 4 months later, the Air Force awarded Lockheed Martin a contract of up to $480 million to design a second hypersonic prototype. It goes on finally to report that speaking to Russia's top military brass on Tuesday, President Putin cited the air-launched hypersonic missile and the Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle, saying that they had significantly bolstered Russia's military capability. He said no one has hypersonic weapons yet, but we have it. There were a lot of headlines being reported this week in regards to Russia. So for the sake of time, I tried to bring you the most pressing ones, and I will definitely continue to keep you updated. But I would like to switch gears and talk about Israel next. It is being reported by the Times of Israel that Benjamin Netanyahu has stated that Israel is developing weapons that no other country has, and that these weapons can reach anywhere in the Middle East. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated on Monday that Israel is developing offensive missiles that can reach anywhere in the area and any target. This is the offensive power of the State of Israel. which is very important for us in all sectors. He also stated that Israel is developing weapon systems with special capabilities that no other country has. The Prime Minister, who is also the Defense Minister, did not elaborate on his comment, which came a day after he said that Israel infiltrates Iran periodically for intelligence gathering purposes. He said IAI knows how to get anywhere it decides and anywhere we need for the good of the country. The sky is not the limit. Netanyahu also praised the IAI for its involvement in space exploration, saying it was a huge sphere that Israel was entering. The Prime Minister's visit came as IAI scientists wrapped up preparations to launch the country's first spacecraft to the moon, which, if successful, would be a breakthrough for both Israeli technology and commercial space travel. RT News is reporting that the statement from the Israeli PM comes as the situation in the whole Middle East region remains tense. Over the past year, Israel has repeatedly attacked neighboring Syria, citing the presence of Iranian troops in Syria. Syria, in turn, has repeatedly denounced such attacks as open aggression against the country, which resulted in Russia supplying the Syrian government with a modern S-300 anti-aircraft system. And speaking of Syria, Fox News is reporting that President Trump is considering plans to pull all U.S. forces out of Syria. President Trump appeared to allude to the decision to pull troops out on Wednesday morning with a tweet: "We have defeated ISIS in Syria. My only reason for being there during the Trump presidency." White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders underscored Trump's comments in a statement later Wednesday morning. 5 years ago, ISIS was a very powerful and dangerous force in the Middle East, and now the United States has defeated the territorial caliphate. These victories over ISIS in Syria do not signal the end of the global coalition or its campaign. We have started returning United States troops home as we transition to the next phase of this campaign. The United States and our allies stand ready to re-engage at all levels to defend American interests whenever necessary, and we will continue to work together to deny radical Islamic terrorists territory, funding, support, and any means of infiltrating our borders. The Pentagon issued a vague statement in response to the news report, not committing to any path ahead. Definitely some very interesting news coming out of Washington. However, it's not without its critics. In fact, Senator Lindsey Graham compared the move, former President Barack Obama's decision to begin withdrawing from Iraq in 2011, which is frequently blamed for creating a vacuum that allowed the Islamic State to gain a foothold in the region. In fact, he said it would also put America's Kurdish allies at risk. This, to me, is an Obama-like decision. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, and I have no understanding why we're doing this. To me, it's an ill-conceived idea. The downside is really great, and the upside is pretty small. He also said the decision came out of left field, that Congress has not been made formally informed, and that it would make it harder to get support from allies in the region in the future. His parting words were, "Good luck getting somebody to help you fight this war in the future." The senator has never been afraid to speak his mind, but is he on to something? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Please do leave your comments in the comments section. And with that said, I have one last report I'd like to bring to you. It is being reported that the Chinese president has stated that he will not be dictated to or bullied. The Chinese president ramped up his trade war with the U.S. when he warned his nation would not be bullied and said there will be no turning back to the policies of the past. The Chinese president made no reference to President Donald Trump or the U.S., but said international fairness and justice in the future. He said we must impose the practices of imposing one's will upon others, interfering in others' internal affairs, or the strong bullying of the weak. Speaking in Beijing's Great Hall of the People, he made it clear that China alone will decide its future direction, stating that no one is in the position to dictate to the Chinese people what should or should not be done. The Chinese president also promised Chinese economy will produce miracles that will impress the world after its battered currency hit its lowest level in a decade, as the world's second biggest economy is left hurt by an ongoing trade war with the United States. The Chinese president sought to make it clear to the world that China would continue to play a large role in the global economy going forward, stating that China cannot develop itself in isolation of the world, but that the world also needs China for global prosperity. He pledged to continue liberalizing the economy and boosting private companies to recover cracks in the economy from an intensifying trade war with America. More fighting words coming out of China. But it's also a very tense situation globally. In fact, we are definitely watching wars and rumors of wars, as well as distrust of nations. And I will definitely continue to keep you updated. But please do, as I said earlier, leave your comments in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Also, come and visit us on Facebook, where we have these stories and many more, as well as our website at www.cww7news.org. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Have a great weekend, and God bless.